Hello everyone and welcome back to the Wicked Weekly. My name's Brian if you happen to be new around here, and in today's video we have the latest hotfix patch notes, but on top of that we also have some insight from the developers, Thomas himself going on to apologize for the state of some of the issues that released alongside the breach. There's a lot to unpack in this video, and if you guys feel like you just are wanting to get to the patch notes or the information and my thoughts on that, please use the chapter markers in these videos to jump to whatever makes the most sense. I'm not actually trying to waste anybody's time, but I know as a YouTuber, I can be long-winded and I try to provide a lot of context as a fellow developer. So just note, that is something that you can always use to your advantage, and I appreciate those of you who take advantage of that. Now, speaking of which, we do have a lot of new people to welcome in. Over 287 of you guys this month have hit that subscribe button. Welcome, guys. It really does mean the world to me. If you are new and you haven't subscribed, do so and sound off in the comments when you do. That way I can welcome you, and I will be keeping you guys up to date on all the developments, hot fixes, patches, builds, and so much more. So if you like the content, if you like especially No Rest for the Wicked, I think you might enjoy what we do over here. So without further ado, guys, hit that like button and let's jump into this. I want to start this video with a personal message that Thomas tweeted out over on X saying, "Yesterday was probably one of the worst days of my life. I'd like to apologize to everyone out there. We obviously learned our lesson here and will never again try to make late changes without extensive testing. Hotfix is dropping here in 55 minutes, and at the time you guys are watching this, just note the hotfix is live, so you can go and update it and check out all of this for yourself." But he says, please keep us updated. This should already fix a lot of the issues people have been experiencing. I want to just kind of a personal call to action to each and every one of you, especially if you're on the frustrated side, using the forums and in Discord for this game. The devs are actively listening. Your feedback does not go unnoticed, and it's important because while I have my own thoughts and you and I might disagree on what is a good priority, I think having more information to the developers who are willing to receive it. That's why they went into early access in the first place, so they can get this level of feedback from people who really want to see this game be the best that it can be. Now, all that being said, let's dive in because Thomas has some additional thoughts regarding the development of this hotfix, and then we'll get into the hotfix specific numbers and updates itself. He starts with, "Hey folks, as you might imagine, we spent an entire time today analyzing what is going on to address some of the concerns that came up for the breach update. The goal was initially to get this hotfix out tonight, but they've been working on quite a lot of things at the same time, and they really want to make sure that their quality assurance team has adequate time to test out the hotfix before they release it. So this is where they're going to release it tomorrow." Obviously, the hotfix is out, but I wanted to give this context to what is going on behind the scenes. He says he wanted to summarize some of the changes that they made based off of the data that they're seeing. What the goal here was not always just to dumb down Wicked to or appeal to one crowd or another, but instead that we're doing what early access is for, carefully evaluating all data and making changes based on actual telemetry and to ensure that people get the experience that they are after. So here it goes. Now, he lists off over 20 different changes which are reflected in the patch notes. So rather than covering them twice here for you guys, you can go check out his full post if you want to get a little bit more context. But here they are on screen, lots of little things, lots of little notes. But he finishes off with this, and then we'll jump into the patch notes itself. He says, and that's just obviously a few of the changes. There's still quite a bit more being discussed, and we'll have more detailed patch notes for you guys tomorrow. And lastly, let me apologize for the breach launch might not have been as smoothly as we all wanted it to be. No Rest for the Wicked is an enormously complex project, and we've tried to squeeze as much new stuff into it as possible, which ultimately meant that some late stage testing that should have happened didn't happen anymore since we ran out of time. But we are very carefully listening to all your feedback, and we constantly are watching streams. We're looking for social media channels, and we'll be fixing things as fast as humanly possible. We are listening, so please keep sending your feedback our way, and we'll promise to make the perfect ARPG experience for all of you out there. I don't know if I would go with the word perfect. That's a heavy word, speaking to the team, but I get the meaning. That's what they're shooting for. They really want to make this dream ARPG that they've wanted, and I think something especially for those of you who do play and have been playing and really want this game to succeed, you do get that vibe. Like, there is something special. They do have something that is especially differentiates them from the other ARPGs out there in this same kind of category. All right. Enough with all of that. Let's dive into the actual patch notes. What has changed and what do you guys might want to be excited about, or what kind of things are still being worked on? We'll be talking about all that right here. We'll start, as we always do, with performance. A lot of people have asked me how the performance of the game is. I've been having really good experience. I'm hearing from Steam Deck players that they're having a good experience. I'm still patching my Steam Deck. I didn't have it charged, so I do apologize. That's getting fixed. I'll be playing it on the Steam Deck here today. But anyhow, this performance update doesn't necessarily help with like anything else. It's just focusing on cutscenes. They improve the performance of the final cinematic and boss fight. They improve the performance of the Inquisition Arrival cinematic. For quality of life improvements, they increase the speed for backstab indicator appearing and disappearing. I know I, for one, have been caught by that. It's kind of surprised me a few times, but it's a really cool thing. They moved the starter weapon Shiny on the Shallows to be closer to the Mariner's Keep entrance to avoid it from being missed. For the UI changes, they've added a disclaimer about legacy saves to the main menu on the Realm screen. They updated bounties and the challenges screen. They added a weekly daily category label to actively screen under both bounties and challenges. They added in an active complete category label to quests in the activity screen. They added a weekly daily labels to the bounty challenge columns in Randolph's menu to explain the difference. They added in a red border on weekly bounties and challenge icons in Randolph's menu to emphasize that they are more difficult. They added in a danger level to the bounty target area to both Randolph's menu and the activity screen. The colored skull icon on the bounty target health bar to yellow and red for daily and weekly respectively to indicate its difficulty. For balance changes, they rebalanced the dagger levels for the overworld before tier 3. So post Sacrament, Orbian Glades level 3, early Nameless Pass level 8, Query Nameless Pass level 11, Black Trench level 15. They slightly increased XP from enemies and bosses. Thank you very much. They removed the XP cap on higher level enemy kills. Thank you also very much for that. Fixed backstab detection angle bug. They buffed parry window for enemy attacks. Now I'm going to tell you guys, and you'll hear this from time to time, I'm not a parry machine. That is the skill that I am going to work on. I like dodging, but I did feel that the parry was even worse, or at least that I thought that I got worse at it. So I'm going to have to actually try it out. I'm not going to try it out on my hardcore character. I'm going to try it out on my character that I'm not afraid of dying and see if I can't improve dramatically. All right, they buffed the iframes for the medium roll. This kind of makes sense. I know that it's, they're working on that balance, and so we'll see if medium roll ends up feeling better. As somebody who's enjoying heavy with the changes, that's something that'll be interesting to see if that changes how I do my builds. They increased the value and duration of all the conditional enchantments. The significantly reduced focus cost for firing arrows. Now, Thomas wants to talk about this. I even gave some feedback, and you guys feel free to weigh in on my feedback here. Back when the game launched, arrows cost focus. They took that away, made archer builds way more viable, maybe a little overpowered. My archer build was insane. I miss it greatly, but it is what it is. That all being said, my general rule coming from an old school MMO background is ammo. Now, ammo, it causes people to get upset. People have a lot of strong opinions about it because I think modern MMOs really kind of, cater to that more casual aspect. But I look at it in terms of like every class you play, every style of play you have, there is a general tax. Like if you're a frontliner, you're going to have more repair costs, for example. You might have better survivability. But ranged in and of itself is a gameplay element, obviously giving you a lot of advantages because then you're not necessarily getting hit. So what's the trade-off? And it's always made sense to me that there's just a tax. Like you have to go buy ammo. You have ammo, and that always in my mind opened it up to that you could have all kinds of ammo that does different things, has different effects, and then you end up having new options for your build. But I get that not everybody is necessarily for that, but it would be an offset to focus. They did make it cost stamina. Maybe they'll make it go back to that. We'll see. But that's just the general thought that I have. You do not need to agree with me. I do take a lick or two here in the comments whenever I bring up my love for ammo for ranged classes in this case. All right. That being said, and I've seen just also kind of a way of it being handled is that ammo basically acts as a damage increase, and if you are out of ammo, you can still fire, but it's obviously at a reduced effect. So yeah, anyway, there people have tried different things with it, and we'll end up seeing what you guys think about that. All right, moving on. They gear upgrades now cost a third as much. Repair now cost a third less than before. I felt like my money was going. It's been a while since I haven't had all my farming stuff, so I do feel that. So we'll see if this feels any better. They fixed tutorial enemy health and damage being too high. They reduced the focus cost for Illuminate Rune by a half, and they reduced the focus cost of Return Rune by 3/4. For enemy and bosses, they polished the Caretaker boss balance. They bonded the Bonded Witch, Nith Screamer, and the Shackled Brute attacks can now be interrupted by any weapon. That's a game changer right there. For the loot, the weapon damage and armor no longer initialize a value from an interval that spawned. Instead will use a set value. They improve gear source system to increase the chance that a really nice item drops for you every once in a while. Now, this first thing, this is going to be interesting to see, because it's like Thomas went on to talk about this earlier about what the designers intended. So I'm going to see if this ends up feeling better in the long run when it comes down to the gear and the drops. They decreased the drop rate of the play gear. They increased the drop rate of herbs. They increased the drop rate of fallen embers. They increased the drop rate of weapon shards and increased the drop rate of ore veins. They also increased loose channels on the brutal couple bounty bosses for the Savage Pair bounty. And they added in more tier 1 food recipes. They added 2 more weapons to the early game Filmore for more variety. They added in more blueprints to the tier 3 Filmore. Filmore now sells 5 ingots and 1 weapon shard a day. Whitaker now sells 5 planks a day, and Cleric armor is now craftable. So I think these are some interesting loot changes. Obviously, time will tell how they feel, and I do think we'll continue to see more, obviously, here in the future. And then finally, as we wrap up the video, bug fixes. We got a handful of them here, so buckle up. Fixed elemental damage and fixes not working on enemies. That's good. Fixed description of blade oil not displaying correctly in the quick menu. They fixed the rune extraction sometimes showing the wrong input key on the keyboard and mouse. They fixed lighting and skybox in the Inquisition Arrival cinematics. They fixed foliage trying to steal the show in the Inquisition Arrival cinematic. They fixed certain mesh trails that were flickering. They fixed Blight Hearts lighting that would stick out after they die. They fixed player highlighting showing the whole square sprite from torches. And they fixed players unable to exalt items with materials from house storage. They fixed the Great Beak having the wrong armor, and they fixed players being able to pass through the gate of the temple in Mirren Woods. They fixed root motion for the Riven Twins spin attack, and they fixed Sacrament interior music audible in combat. They adjusted music spatial room borders to avoid gate ambience getting struck. They fixed Alton spawning under the ground in Sacrament after the campaign end. They fixed certain Blight testicles not despawning, and they fixed Lowland Meadows Whisper near the Plague Bear area not showing up on the map after it becomes available. They fixed spatial room for the music at the Sharam Gate during the Servants of God, and they fixed a spot where you can get stuck in collision in orbit in glades. They fixed the goat in the boat on the moat shining like a deity. It wasn't happy about that. Guys, I think these updates updates, that's a weird way to say it, Brian. These updates are a good step in the continuing right direction. Obviously, as more news and all that rolls out, I'll be getting you guys the content so that way you're informed. Love always hearing your opinions. Jump into the comments or jump over on the Discord. We can always be talking about this and all of the gaming news. And speaking of which, before I let you go, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you're Chad. We're going to be talking about this live on the podcast. We do the podcast over on Ginger Prime Podcasts and Clips. I moved the podcast there. It just kind of makes more sense, especially when it comes to clipping it up and things like that. Today, we're going to be talking in roundtable format. We'll open it up, maybe a call-in show. So if you're interested and you're watching this and you missed it, go check it out. I'd love for you to be over on the podcast channel as well. Links will all be in the description. But outside of that, guys, thank you guys so much. God bless you, each and every one of you. And thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, take care.